What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Miles Drives. My name is Mickey. In this episode, I'm going to get a little bit controversial, a little bit more personal. Should you, given all the work you've put in, all of the time it's taken to save up that $100,000 to $300,000 in your bank account, should you buy your first home or should you buy your first supercar? Guys, what a conundrum. If you've ever been in this situation, for a young man, it's perhaps the hardest decision you've ever had to make. But let me make that decision just a little bit easier for you. Look, back in 2017, I was this guy. I had moved from Vegas to Miami, and at the time I was driving a C63. I kept having this itch to buy a supercar, but I was living in a 1,000 square foot apartment. Right? Now, when you're only in that apartment, even though it's in a nice building and stuff, you don't really realize what it is that you're living in. Now, in retrospect, it's like living in a shoebox. Now, no offense to anybody that lives in a 1,000 square foot apartment, but honestly, there is no room to do anything. You can't start a business. You can't have an office. You can't do any commerce out of the apartment. You can't even make love to your significant other without having your neighbors hear you. You can't step on the ground without having your neighbors hear you. You got to ride elevators with everybody you don't want to see every single day. It's the most terrible thing in the world. But I decided, even though I was in this apartment, to buy my first supercar. And I ended up pulling the trigger on a 911 Turbo, a 2014, for about it was like 110 grand or something like that. I come home with the car, and now I'm just the guy that lives in an apartment with a sports car. Oh my goodness. Guys, my life, even though it improved while I was in the car, and it amplified my driving experience a bit, it did not make me materially more happy. But being the idiot that I am, fast forward a year and a half, and I go visit the collection, and look, on the showroom, they've got this beautiful Luminaire Green 600 LT that you all have seen so many times that I've shown on this channel. And because, you know, I couldn't really afford the car, I had about 120 grand in the bank at the time, and let's say, you know, 30 or 20 or $30,000 a month in income, roughly. I walk into the showroom, and they've got this lease special. I guess McLaren was discounting the 600 LT so much because they couldn't move any units. People were so pissed off about them mass producing all of their models that they couldn't sell any of them. So I walk into the dealership, and they've got these crazy rebates, these crazy lease specials. I end up leasing my Luminaire Green 600 LT with $65,000, $70,000 down and $1,700 a month. Again, I chose a supercar. I had this perception that the supercar, that the 600 LT would improve my life greater than moving out of that shoebox 1,000 square foot apartment. So that night, I remember taking my 600 LT to the apartment and having to drive it up 8 levels in the parking garage. Now, I don't remember. I think it was on the 8th floor. All the way up, all the way up, all the way up. And it was one of the most frustrating experiences in the world. I don't know if you guys have ever driven a sports car or a supercar with a bunch of carbon fiber, but you got to keep going up and making these sharp turns. You are absolutely terrified of scraping the carbon fiber, of ruining a $40,000 body part. So it was an unpleasant experience. And then when I reached my parking spot, I had to park it next to a Corolla and a Camry. And it was at this moment that I realized, maybe I should have bought the house first before buying the supercar. And to amplify this further, I had to continue living in this apartment through COVID, through the worst time ever. I don't know if any of you lived in an apartment through COVID, but it was absolutely disgusting. People were terrified of coming into contact. You had to do one at a time elevator rides. When people would get in the elevators, they'd be like this against the corner. Like, people were so sensitive. And the lockdown really amplified this sensitivity and made for a really unpleasant experience. And all of these things made me realize that there is nothing better than having liberty and freedom within your home. There's nothing greater than having your own place to be, even if the world is burning to a crisp. And that is when I realized that I wish I would have taken that $110,000, $120,000 down on 2 supercars and put it towards a nice house. And then I should have used that nice house to work on my business in the evenings and build something big enough to where affording these things was nothing. Those are the mistakes that I made. I chose the supercar. I thought that the supercar would have me riding around with a big, you know, thing, a big driving experience every single day, when in reality, all I did was amplify my driving time, which was about 15 minutes a day. I then had to live 10 to 12 hours a day in a shoebox in a place I did not love. So if you are in a similar position, what can you take away from this video? If you think a sports car or supercar is going to change your life, you are sadly mistaken. It won't. It'll amplify your driving experience. Sure, you'll be able to do this and speed down the street and get a smile on your face for those 10 minutes, but then you have to reach your home and you've got to look at yourself in the mirror of that home. You can't hide away in your sports car forever, and you have to realize at that moment that you're not a little kid, right? That you need a place to live. And that is when you should pull the trigger on a home instead of a sports car or a supercar. These things are amplifiers to your daily driving life, but they're not amplifiers to your life. And that's the nuance. That's the thing you all need to realize. Now, I don't know if you agree or disagree. Probably most of you disagree like me.
I love buying sports cars and supercars. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Listen, Johnny, that's okay. More power to you. God bless you. I'm not going to be hypocritical and tell you not to do it, because I did it and I made the mistakes. But when you realize that your freedom and your liberty and your ability to own your own place is more important, and it does impact your happiness that much more significantly, you will come back to my comments and you will write, hey Mickey, I'm sorry for disagreeing. Anyways, guys, look, if you enjoyed this episode of Miles Drives, do me a favor. Scroll down. Do a little scrolly scroll. Give me a subscribe, give me a like, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Take care.